Welcome to another episode of 5-5 Sports. It's been a crazy week, and we're here to break it down. I'm Evan. Once again, alongside me is Matthew and Daria, and we're going to be bringing you everything from the NBA bubble to the NHL bubble, and we have a huge political discussion maybe towards the end where we'll discuss the Jacob Blake protests, the NBA boycott, and, of course, the Chadwick Boseman passing. What a truly awful passing that. We'll get into that later, but what an incredible human being, and he meant so much to so many people. That's just the intro for today. We'll start, of course, with the NBA, and there's been some incredible basketball being played, and we'll start with the Canadian Jamal Murray, who has been lights out, automatic. There's no way to put it. He has been unstoppable. The Denver Nuggets, bringing them back from the death. They were down 3-1. It's now 3-3, and Game 7 goes Tuesday at night. So I will start with you guys. Who wins that game? Because it's been a terrific series.
I think the series is going to go to Denver. I think both teams have been playing outstanding. Originally, when we made our predictions a few weeks back, I predicted that this game would go 7, and that Denver will take it. A week ago, I was starting to kind of doubt that a little bit because Utah was just playing incredible, game after game, and Donovan Mitchell has been lights out. But I think since that Utah had the lead, and Denver is not giving up and they're putting up that fight, I think now it's Game 7. I think it's Denver's to take it.
Yeah, this is we've kind of predicted that Donovan Mitchell would be a big time player for this series, but Jamal Murray putting out the points right now in this series has been quite crazy. And to be honest, for me, I think I said Nuggets as well. And I gotta stay with the prediction, but the thing is, it's really between those two players right now about who will take it. And I find whoever comes out of that game with I guess more of an influence, obviously, I do think it will be Jamal Murray though, and I think the Denver Nuggets will take the win.
I'm just gonna say just quickly, Donovan Mitchell. Even though the story has been all about Jamal Murray as it should be, he's been playing terrific basketball, and he's becoming a just phenomenal player under our eyes. We've seen him over the last 3 years. His rookie year could have been rookie of the year. Ben Simmons is still a terrific talent, so there's no shame in losing to a guy like Ben Simmons when it came to a rookie of the year race voting. But Donovan Mitchell, his game from year 1 to year 3 is just exponentially better. And he's really leading. He's leading Utah, and without him, they wouldn't be up 3-1. Early in the series, it was kind of Utah dominating. Denver took that game 1 in overtime. Then 2 and 3 was really all about Utah. Pulled it off in Game 4, and then Game 5 and 6, it's just Jamal Murray wouldn't let his team die. Even in the Game 4 when they lost in a close game, it was just Jamal Murray and Don. I mean, the whole series has been those two going at it, and it's weird. I think Utah's going to somehow win Game 7. And I think Quinn Snyder, I believe in him as a coach to find a way to kind of stop a guy scoring 50. And when a guy scores 50, 3 straight, or not 50, but the way he's been playing the last 3 games, basically unstoppable. You have to find a different approach to get him out of his rhythm, to stop him, let other guys make shots. If you let other guys beat you, then you can live with yourself. But you can't let Jamal score 50 again in Game 7. He just can't have that shooting performance. It doesn't matter. Pick him up in half court, double him, do whatever it takes. You can't let the guy that's hot beat you, because that's what's happened the last 2 games, and you can't win basketball by making the same guys by making the same mistakes twice.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I mean, Jamal Murray, no one expected him to go off this series the way he did. I mean, we all came in knowing he is a great player. He's one of the best.
I don't think he scored 50 once in the regular. I don't think he's ever scored 50 in his career.
Yeah, exactly. So no one expected him to do this in the series.
Yeah, in a playoff game. Yeah, playoff games.
But I think it shows you the type of player he is. You could depend on him in when matters. But the thing is that Denver, they also have the reason why I put them the edge over Utah is I feel like they have more offensive firepower. If you just take out aside from Murray and Mitchell, I think Denver has more offensive firepower than Utah.
I have to disagree with you. Outside of Jokic, I mean, Utah's Gobert, who's able to do enough against Jokic. You know, on the 3-point line, if Jokic is hitting threes, I think Denver wins this game. If Jokic hits 3 or 4 threes and scores 20, 25, it's game over because Gobert has to do a good enough job on Jokic, and Jokic has to be a little bit cool from 3-point line. Terrific player, Jokic. I mean, from big men, shooting, passing, inside, his mid-range. He's really a flawless player, Nikola Jokic. Kind of unbelievable at his size, what he is able to do on the basketball court. But, I mean, it's been about Jamal Murray, and I mean, I'll say it again. Utah they have to throw something different at him, let other guys beat you, because really, until Jamal Murray took over, no one else is beating them. No, they didn't have an answer. They were down double digits in the third quarter in that elimination game when Jamal Murray said, not today, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to keep this series going. But I think Utah has more firepower offensively. Mike Conley, he's been terrific since he rejoined in Game 3. I was thinking about Bogdanovic, but he's been injured the whole series. Who am I thinking of? Oh, I can't believe it. Yes, Jordan Clarkson off the bench. And that's just – I don't think Denver has a guy off the bench that's been doing what Jordan Clarkson's been doing. He's just creating his own shots, getting his points. And the Utah is supposed to be Michael Porter. That's supposed to be Michael Porter Jr.'s role, but he hasn't really fulfilled that this series. He's young; he'll get better, but defensively, he's been a liability. And Utah just has that experience, which I think will help them in Game 7 as long as they have an answer to Jamal Murray. But it's tough because there really hasn't been an answer. No one's seen this version of Jamal Murray in his career. Lights out. And tonight's game goes Tuesday night at 8:30. Tune in for what has probably been the best series in round 1 without much debate. We'll finish off with the other Western Conference series that has gone the distance, and one that we all predicted, I think, would go at least 6 or 7, be a close series. Houston, OKC. Not too much of separating it. Another Game 7. Who wins this one?
I'm going with OKC. I predicted OKC from the beginning. And I just think that I feel like it's going to be a close game. And when it comes down to close games, you got to depend on one player to come through. And I think that player is Chris Paul. He has been clutch throughout the whole entire series. I've said this time and time again each week, he has been playing like he has back in New Orleans or LA Clippers. And not only is he being great himself, he's making his teammates even better because of the system that they had during OKC. And I'm going to butcher his name, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He has also
nailed it.
Yeah, he's also been great throughout the whole series. And I just think at this point, the way Houston is has a lot of talent on the team.
Mm-hmm.
But in high pressure situations like in Game 7, I don't think they have enough to shut down OKC's offense. But I think OKC has enough to shut down Houston's offense.
Yeah, regardless, it is a tough one to call. And I think I predicted back in my prediction part, I said that Houston would take this win because of one man personally for me, and that was James Harden. And consistently throughout this series, very similar to me, to Chris Paul, I think he's been, shooting-wise, he's been fantastic. He's been keeping a consistent eye, and I think that's really key for a playoff series such as this. And coming into a Game 7, I actually do differ on this. I do think offensively, Houston have the edge in my opinion. Although I will say that Chris Paul has been great, and they have been great. The series has been great, but I think the way they've been playing Houston and the way and the offensive edge, I would just give it to Houston.
Mm-hmm. It's a tough game to pick. No matter what, whoever wins this game is going to lose to the Lakers in the second round. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I think the Lakers are going to win the next. I think the Lakers are just going to win the next series in 5. And it's not. I'm not disrespecting either. I mean, I'll disrespect Houston in a second. But OKC again. Matthew, you said it. Chris Paul, just so much fun to watch him. When a player kind of brings back his form from years ago, and it feels like a revenge trip for him. You know, it feels like business. He's out there to prove something to the world. He's still Chris Paul. He's one of the baddest point guards in the league. And that step back 3 over Robert Covington to tie that game was just It's an indescribable word. Just disgusting to do that to another human being, man. Chris Paul, it's just so much fun to watch him right now. But we can't forget that James Harden is still the best scorer in the league when he wants to be. The way he just generates points off that, the way he generates points off his step back, he can score so many ways. He gets inside, he gets fouled, and when he's on his game, there's no stopping him. He's been doing what Jamal Murray's been doing this series for the last 3-4 years. James Harden is just such a fun player to watch, and he's really having to carry Houston right now. The only reason they're in this series is because James Harden's been able to do what he's done. So all credit to him. Here's Houston's big problem. They just don't play defense. And when you have guys, we mentioned Chris Paul, we mentioned Schroeder, we mentioned Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And the problem is they have no big men inside Houston that could stop any of those guards. So when they're in the paint, they're just getting points at will. It's not hard for these quick guards to just get at these guys because they're undersized, like 6'8", like small forwards and power forwards in the paint. And these point guards are just abusing them. So OKC has every right to think they can win this Game 7 because Houston defensively, they're lucky they're playing OKC, who doesn't have the true firepower like an Anthony Davis, who just he wouldn't let that happen, or LeBron James, who if you just put them inside, if you let them defend whoever they need to, they're not going to get beat the way that Houston are getting beat. It's too easy for other teams to score, and Houston just lives and dies by the three ball. If they don't hit their threes, they're not going to win games. And I mean, they'll hit their threes because they shoot 100 a game, but just how often can they hit that three? What's the percentage going to be like? Are they going to go on any big runs? Are they going to give up a run? Are they going to go ice cold in like a third or fourth quarter? It's just there's so many X factors that are going to determine this Game 7, and just you have two teams that are kind of built similar, but play complete different styles of basketball. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. It could go either way. I picked OKC, I think, in 6 is my bold prediction for this NBA series. So I'll stick with OKC. They've done a terrific job this series, and I'm excited to watch because there's not too much separating these sides, and in a Game 7, anything can happen. Let's switch up to the Eastern Conference. Both series have tipped off. They're underway. The Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat are up 1-0 by the time this podcast comes out. Game 2 will be played of both series. So let's talk about, of course, Toronto to start the East. A slow Game 1, to say the least. What happened with their performance? What went wrong?
The main thing about the game was just Raptors. Their offensively, they just weren't hitting shots. And then on the other side, the Celtics were able to, the top players like Kemba, Tatum, and Smart, they're all shooting incredibly well the entire game. And they're getting the baskets in. And then on our side, I think most of the Raptors were having very low shooting percentages. I think the only one who had decent performance was Anunoby offensively. But if Anunoby is your best player offensively, then and no one else has put up numbers, that's not usually a good thing because Anunoby is a great player, but he is not our main offensive guy.
Yeah.
And now we talk about the importance of Raptors' depth and how deep the team goes, but if no one is scoring on where the starters or your bench players, it's going to show. And then when you have to face against star players like Tatum and Kemba, you can't just easily match up to that.
Yeah, no. So you know what? It's that game honestly reminded me of their first regular season game, but their game just before the playoffs against the Celtics, where their shooting performance was off. They were kind of just underperforming all around. I mean, stat-wise, I think they didn't have anyone in that got 20 points, or I think the most was, I believe, Kyle Lowry with 17. And it's generally, I remember when I was talking about Boston a while back, the thing about that team is that you can say Kemba Walker is definitely a star for that team, but they have a generally great well-balanced side. They have Jason Tatum, they have Jaylen Brown, they have a Mark Smart. They have a general team which you can understand if one player is not hitting the certain route, they're not hitting the certain beats, the other will, and that is important for a team like for Boston to keep going further. That being said, the Raptors really need to learn from this game one because a lot of those same mistakes they had in that regular season game were shown in this one, and game two will be obviously very crucial for this team, and we need players like Siakam to definitely show up, Lowry to definitely show up for us to keep going.
Yeah, I'm not worried. We're talking about the Raptors here. They always lose game one. The moments of concern, I'd say, again, is offensively, they just weren't hitting their shots. But, I mean, if you had to give me an odds of, are they going to hit shots in game two, I'd say yes. Freddie just saw his kids, so, I mean, that should maybe spark another Freddie go crazy moment, just like it did last year against Milwaukee and Golden State. But, I mean, we've seen the consistency here. And the Raptors got lazy in game one. Defense, in the first quarter, and they got into foul trouble just because, on switches, on high screens, they weren't getting, they weren't moving quick enough. They were just trying to put their hand in, again, just lazy fouls, and they're also shooting poorly. So there's a rare combo for the Raptors. I have not seen them play that badly, in a while. That was one of the worst games for sure all season. But championship teams bounce back, so we'll see what this team's made of. Everyone's talking about Kawhi Leonard. Siakam has to be better. That's one. I think Boston doesn't have great size inside. Daniel Tice is good, but not great. I think you need Marc Gasol and Siakam doing. You just have to find a way to work them into the plan, and then that would open the shots for Lowry and Siakam. And they just have to do better on the defensive end too. We keep saying defense keeps them in games. You have to get in front of shooters. Kemba Walker had it too easy. Jason Tatum too easy. He was finding shots at will. But Nick Nurse will make his adjustments. Brad Stevens is an excellent coach for Boston. He knows how to win games. We've seen it before, and these are two of the best well-coached teams in the league. But if you're talking about talent, you're talking about superstars, Boston may have slightly more talent than you. It may be younger talent, but Jason Tatum's a hungry dude. Kemba Walker's been in the league for a long time, and we know what he's all about. He's been doing it for a while. So I expect the Raptors to make adjustments, and I predict they'll win games 2 and 3. That's how confident I am. Good teams bounce back, and I fully expect just better shooting performance and better on the defensive end. I'm not concerned for this team, none whatsoever.
I have to ask you guys, where do you guys think this series will go? How many games?
7. I've been saying Toronto Boston. I've probably been saying 6 months ago that Toronto Boston is going to go 7. This was a matchup that we knew for a while now, and I mean these are just two very good teams. That's the bottom line. You're not going to win every game. Look, Brooklyn sucks. Look, they had no KD, no Kyrie, no Spencer Dinwiddie, no DeAndre Jordan. I mean, who's going to beat you? Their 4 best players are out. Brooklyn played well, to be honest. I mean, are we going to criticize Brooklyn's effort against Toronto? No, they played well. But you're playing a much better team. And I think the problem is the Raptors haven't had such an intense game yet against a team as good as Boston. It's been, how many months since they played a game as important as the one that we saw Sunday afternoon. It happens. You're not going to win every game. I'm not concerned. Good teams bounce back.
I completely agree, actually, with Evan. I have to say, I do think it's going to go to 7. And I do think the Raptors will bounce back in this one, but I do think it's going to be tops and derby. This is going to be one of those matchups, a real test for them. The Celtics are no pushover. They definitely have the team to challenge. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm really excited to see how the series pans out because I have a feeling it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a really good one.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. It's going to go 7. And I do think the Raptors will take it. I also think that this will probably be the hardest series Raptors face in the East. I think as a system, we're better built against a team like Milwaukee than we are against a team like Boston. I think we have players, we can, if Ibaka and, Gasol play defense the way we expect them to, I think they could not – I wouldn't say shut down Giannis because you can't really shut down Giannis, but, they could limit how much he scores in the paint. And I think I think with Boston, just because I also think Boston's just as good, as well coached as Raptors are, even though Nick Nurse is, of course, the best coach. Brad Stevens is not a far second by any means. And, yeah, like you guys said, it's going to be a close series.
Speaking of Giannis and Milwaukee, they're once again down 1-0. But this time it's to the much better Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler went off for 40 points. No one's done that in a playoff game for Miami since LeBron James. But we saw yesterday, outside Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero put in a great performance, as well as Goran Dragic. Just a great team effort to beat Milwaukee. And are the Bucks in danger of perhaps getting knocked out much earlier than they expected?
I think Milwaukee, they look like they're in trouble. They aren't playing as you'd have expected them to, like earlier on. I do think that they could win in 7 because we talk about Giannis. He's like the best player in the world right now, and like I think when you have a player like that, it could always turn around. Especially it's just game 1. They just lost game 1. They could easily turn the series around. But they're going to need to do a lot to turn the series around because even though Giannis almost got triple double yesterday, and Chris Middleton went off, and they still lost. It still wasn't good enough. So they really need to make the rest of that team around them better to have a chance against Miami series. Because Miami, again, another very well coached team, and Jimmy Butler has been going off in the bubble, so it's going to be a close series for sure. It's going to go 7. I still give the edge to Milwaukee, but I don't know. It's going to be close.
Miami's going to win the series, and it's simply because Milwaukee doesn't have the depth. Outside of Giannis, that team just isn't very good. I mean, look, Middleton, you said, popped off in the first half. In the game, you put 19 in the first half and 6 in the second half. Middleton is an underperforming star right now, and you can't have underperforming stars in the playoffs. Giannis's free throw shooting ability is, something to be desired. But, imagine that. The MVP of the NBA can't shoot free throws. That's the headline for you right there, NBA fans. But Miami, they basically play the exact way Milwaukee doesn't defend. They shoot a lot of threes, and they hit a lot of threes. They don't need to do anything inside. Look, their big man, off their bench, Kelly Olynyk, he's not doing anything inside. He just sits on the three-point line and just drains threes if he wants to. And then, look, we talked about Tyler Hero, terrific rookie, just so composed. The pressure doesn't get to him. Duncan Robinson, who wasn't even that good yesterday, but he was fantastic against Indiana. He still, has yet to hit his peak against Milwaukee. And then Goran Dragic, veteran experience, played well. And I'm not even going down the list of players on Miami. Iguodala, veteran, brings great defense. Can guard Giannis. Look, Miami, to me, just has the key that's going to be Milwaukee. They're going to hit a lot of threes. They're going to play hard defense. They're going to clog the paint. And unless Milwaukee starts hitting threes like the Houston Rockets, I can't see Milwaukee winning this team. It feels like Miami just has the right formula to beat this team. And with the mental toughness that Jimmy Butler brings and kind of exudes when he's on the floor, that resonates with the rest of the team for sure. 40 points, terrific. This team is going to be hard to beat. I think Miami's going to win the series in 6, to be honest. I can't see Milwaukee winning this series, especially after the game 1.
Here's the thing with this series, I can completely understand both sides of the argument right now. The way, look, Miami is they have some great players. Jimmy Butler has been amazing since the bubble, and they're well coached. And I was always saying since the start, like, to not count them out.
Yeah.
Overlook, yeah. The thing is, though, Milwaukee is tricky because Giannis did not play great in game 1. And that was shown in the performance as a whole. That team runs on a player like him as well, of course Middleton as well, and such. But Giannis is not going to have a bad game every game. This is one, and I think I want to give that edge to Miami. However, I think it's going to go 7, and it's going to go to Milwaukee, only because I do think that team can. Yes, they underperformed in that first game, but they won't. I don't think they'll do that again. I think they're going to keep going and going and going, and I don't think they'll. And I think it'll be a back and forth series once again. Like a lot of the ones I've honestly been predicting in this one.
Yeah,
in this series.
the NBA playoffs has been nothing short of spectacular. I mean, the basketball's been on point. They're just
Oh yeah.
everyone's balling out for just. I mean, on any given night, you just don't know who it's going to be, and what a great decision to bring back the players in the bubble, because it's been terrific basketball, some of the best I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, and the quality is definitely there, and it's on show right now. With that being said, I do think Milwaukee will get the edge. I think just the more powerful team, in my opinion. And yeah, but honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see Miami take it as well. That's the thing about this one. And yeah, I guess we just got to see how it goes.
I just don't think Middleton's playing well enough. You can't expect Giannis to put up 35 and like 12 and 10 every. I mean, it's just not his game. I mean, Giannis will beat up teams because that's just who he is. That's just the way he's developed. That's just the way he scores the basketball. Once he gets inside, he's just so strong that he'll score. But I mean, he did nothing in game one. I think it was 12 points he finished. It's just surprising. He's not going to score 12 every game. But I think Miami also has, something else that they can bring to the game. And I like this Miami Heat team. I don't think Milwaukee can win a championship with Chris Middleton being your second best player. And that may be, sounding slightly disrespectful to him. That's just the truth. There's a reason that people just, keep, slandering Chris Middleton, because time in and time again, when it matters, he doesn't get the job done. We saw it against the Raptors last year, and we're going to see it in this Miami series, guaranteed. He's going to be the one guy that's going to be scapegoated for sure if they lose, and simply because he's not playing basketball the way a guy that's making max money should be playing basketball on a championship team.
I'll go back to what Darius said, and Miami winning is still going to depend on if we're not the best basketball player in the league. It's going to play like the best basketball player in the league. Like if Giannis again, he has a triple double yesterday, so he put up numbers in other areas of the stat line, but he hasn't scored as much as he needed to. If he scores as much as he needs to, that changes the entire game as a whole. And if you're betting on Giannis not scoring, that's not something you can really bet, because Giannis will score more games than others. And again, I'm not saying that Milwaukee will easily take the series, because Miami is a great team. Don't get me wrong. Well coached. Jimmy Butler has been absolutely amazing throughout the entire playoff run this year. But again, I can't bet on Giannis not playing how we would expect him to for an entire series.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to learn a lot about these two teams over the next few weeks. But let's switch gears to the NHL, where the second round has been well underway, and we've seen a lot of good hockey games. We'll start with the series that just ended last night. Tampa Bay finally beat Boston, double overtime. The Boston Bruins are out. Victor Hedman scored the decisive goal, the game-winning series goal in that one. Boston, they didn't look great, but is this a sign that Tampa Bay maybe can finally break their demon of, not winning and always underachieving when it matters the most? Is this their year, possibly?
I mean, they definitely have the talent they have in Tampa Bay. They always are contenders. I mean, there's still a lot of good teams in the West. I mean, there's still Vegas, there's still Colorado, there's still Dallas.
And there's still the Islanders. We can't count out the Islanders.
In the East, there's still the Islanders, who we'll get into later. And Tampa's been playing well. You have to also remember Boston. They didn't have Tuukka Rask.
Yeah.
And in the playoffs, that matters. I think we predicted that the series would be closer, even without Tuukka Rask. But am I surprised that the series wasn't as close as I thought it would be? No, because at the end of the day, it makes sense that if you don't have your number one goalie in the net, you're not going to beat your number one team they face.
Yeah, they got away with it against Carolina just because they were the more talented team, the more experienced team. Boston still has a killer instinct, but Tampa Bay is a very good hockey team, and people kind of maybe not forgot it, but people's expectations were maybe lower for them just because of what happened last year against Columbus. I mean, that happens in hockey. This team looks like they have something to prove to the world. They've been doubted a lot. Can they do in the playoffs? It almost sounds like the Leafs, except they have a lot more talent. And They have one of the best goalies in the league and a top, I would say at least top 3 defenseman Victor Hedman, who just eats up minutes, and again, one of the best defensemen in the league. So they have the winning formula. Kucherov, top 3 attacking, top 3 scoring talent. He does everything. I'd say after McDavid and Pasternak, he's right there at 3. Maybe you can throw in I don't know who you'd throw in ahead of him. I think he's for sure top 3. The other guys, Braden Point, Steven Stamkos. These are just all great hockey players. Andre Palat being on fire this series. I mean, they have 4 deep lines. Defensively, they're a good team, and Andre Vasilevsky will keep you in every game. And again, when you don't have Tuukka Rask, when you have to throw in Yaroslav Halak for the whole series, it's just tough to beat a good team like that with a backup goalie. Boston maybe thought they could do it because they beat Carolina without Tuukka, but you're not going to win consistently in the playoffs without that number 1 guy. So Boston, I credit their effort. They never lay down. They never gave up. Even they were down 2-1, 3 minutes left. David Krejci gets one to push it to overtime. Playing overtime, finally Victor Hedman finishes the job. But yeah, it wasn't a very exciting series because you kind of after that game 3 when Tampa took that 2-1 lead, you kind of felt like it was over. But Boston never died. They never do. So credit for them for at least trying to stay in it, but Tampa Bay just looked too good in this one.
Yeah, I completely agree on that. And then there was that game 3 where Tampa absolutely destroyed Boston, 7-1 game.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show how talented Tampa's offense is.
I mean, look, it happens, but if you have Tuukka Rask, the series probably goes 7. So it's tough. He made his decision for whatever that reason was. We'll never know. But yeah, it's just you don't win hockey games without a starting goalie, and it's tough. But Boston learned that, I guess, this series. They'll be back next year though. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. The other Eastern Conference series has the Islanders facing the Flyers, and it looks like the Flyers are going home. They are facing elimination, but you never say never in sports. You're the Philly fan. How are you feeling right now? You must be feeling pretty worried.
Oh, man, I don't even want to talk about the series right now. Okay, here's the thing. I'm not going to start saying, we're going to definitely go out today because, again, it's elimination game. Historically, in elimination games, Flyers are known to pull up a fight. Not necessarily win a series, but we're known to pull up a fight. And, look, it all comes down to our offense. Our offense needs to get going. Our top players throughout the season were, Drew, Konechny, and Couturier. From out of the 3, only Couturier has scored goals this playoff. I'm not going to be as harsh on Drew as most people have been because I do think he hasn't looked bad necessarily. He just hasn't done as much as we want him to, which in turn, I guess, it is a bad thing because he's our captain. We expect him to do more, but it's one of those things where you see him. He was never much of a goal scorer. He's always been a pure playmaker, and he's still making plays. He's just the players he sets up to aren't really capitalizing. And he's not taking usual, he's not taking as much chances himself. But that being said, that's no excuse for the fact that he needs to be playing better. Konechny, I'm definitely calling out because he was our number 1 guy this season. He has been the all-star this season, and he was having a breakout year. And then after the round robin, he absolutely disappeared. Couturier, 2 goals. That's not enough for him. Voracek, he's been well. He did well in the Montreal series. Been kind of quiet since. Kevin Hayes had a good game too. That's it. And that kind of goes to show there's no one really notable on the Flyers offense right now. I think on defense, I think other than Provorov, there's no one who's been notable either. I think I'm Provorov. People just complain about the little things he does that he messes up on. He's made mistakes throughout the series, but with the amount of minutes he's playing, Vigneault is draining the life out of Provorov because he is really the only guy who can. And I'll blame Vigneault for that because Provorov is the only guy who can actually do anything. Myers is solid. He hasn't been overly disappointing, but he hasn't He's a young defenseman. I think he can be great in the future. He has some great moments. He has some weaker moments. And also, the only other than like Provorov, the only other noble player, and even more noble than Provorov, is Carter Hart. Because at the end of the day, our like team is leaving him to dry because we aren't scoring ourselves. Carter Hart has been absolutely amazing the playoffs. Anyone who says that Carter Hart was going to be a bust was like it wasn't looking like he could be a great future goaltender. It's wrong because Carter Hart has done almost no wrong this entire series.
Yeah, it's not a question of the goalie or Philadelphia's being bad defensively. I'm sorry for cutting you off there, but like that's what the Islanders do. They just frustrate you. Varlamov's played great. Thomas Greiss, he comes in for the back-to-back, plays relatively well. He didn't make any obvious mistakes, and he kept Philadelphia pretty frustrated throughout 3 periods. Like that's what Islanders do. Look, they have a lot of good defensemen. They're tough. They have size, and Barry Trotz knows how to. He's been around forever. Barry Trotz wins hockey games, and I think Philadelphia is learning a lesson. They haven't kind of had the expectations for many years where kind of they being the favorites, and a lot of them have said, "Look, Philadelphia is probably a top 3 team in the East. Watch out for Philadelphia. They could be a cup contender." And you could probably remember I told you months ago the Flyers are going to get knocked out in the second round. I don't care who they play; they will get knocked out. They just don't. They don't have the offensive talent to score enough. And when you run into a hot goaltender, they ran into a pretty hot one in Carey Price, but Simeon Varlamov is a different animal. And when you have the defense behind you like the Islanders do, it's tough to win hockey games. And the Flyers are finding out the hard way that they spent in the wrong places in the offensive zone. They have an aging core that haven't been at their best for a while in Voracek and Giroux.
I wouldn't say they have an aging core. I think other than Giroux and Voracek, everyone's still pretty much like before or in the prime.
Yeah, and then again, they're young players like Konechny, like a Provorov. They're getting a taste of the NHL playoffs. So I'm not gonna say Provorov's been playing bad, but he's not at his best right now. And to win playoff games, you need guys at their best. So that's all I'll say about the Flyers. Like they're getting a hard lesson, but they'll be back next year. But they have to restructure, their team to fit fit the way you win in the NHL. And right now they don't have the team that's going to win a Stanley Cup. We will end our hockey discussion with the 2 Western Conference series. Colorado has escaped elimination for one night, beating Dallas, 6-3. But Dallas has been playing great hockey. They're up 3-2. How does Colorado force a Game 7?
Honestly, it just becomes to outscoring Dallas because I think all the games that Dallas beat Colorado wasn't necessarily Colorado even playing that bad. I think it was just Dallas was playing better. I mean, Dallas has been playing great hockey throughout against Calgary and then throughout most of the series in Colorado so far. And I think if they keep doing that, then Dallas will take the series. But Colorado has the talent to outmatch Dallas on any night if they can. And if McKinnon has been playing great, he has a 13-game point streak. And if McKinnon continues that streak and if every other player on Colorado can put numbers and outscore Dallas, then they can win. But that won't be easy because Dallas at the end of the day has been playing great hockey.
I think Dallas is lucky they played Calgary to start, just simply because when you're kind of in that mindset of tough hockey early on, it makes it easier when you play another really good hockey team. And I think Colorado is a step up from Calgary. And it's no disrespect to Calgary, Dallas just looks the hungrier of the teams. I think they will close down Game 6. I think if it goes to Game 7, I think Colorado has talent to get there. But they had an opportunity. Michael Hutchinson was in net, former Leaf goalie. He's 1-0 in the playoffs. That's one for you, Leaf fans. Michael Hutchinson getting a playoff win. That one hurts a little bit as a Leafs fan. But look, Colorado has a talent. Dallas, I think, has the composure and the patience to kind of throw off Colorado. Obviously, Colorado came out in that first period like their lives depend on it, scoring 5 and basically kind of ending the game before it even started. Look, Dallas has heart. They have hustle. They scored 3. They made it kind of interesting. Not really, because when you play a first period as badly as they do, and you get as unlucky as Dallas did when you get 5, it's not often. It's just a combination of playing bad hockey and then getting punished. You don't often get punished that bad. But, that's what happens. Colorado played like they were facing elimination, and we see a Game 6. The other series, the Vegas Golden Knights versus the Vancouver Canucks, it's looking like the young Canucks may have finally met their match in the Vegas Golden Knights. What have you made of the series? Because I don't want to ask you if you think they have any shot, because I don't believe, and I don't think you believe Vancouver has any shot either. Vegas is just the better hockey team, the more experienced hockey team, and they're playing like it.
Honestly, I think it's one of those series where Vancouver can walk away with the loss and be positive about the future.
Oh, yeah. No, their heads are going to be held up high no matter what. I mean, there's nothing negative you could take away from the Vancouver Canucks series. Not even from the series, from their season. The emergence of Elias Pettersson, Quinn Hughes, Bo Horvat's playing great. Look, they have a lot of guys. And, look, their team will obviously, change, within the years. They'll bring in a veteran. You'll lose someone. Like, that's the reality of hockey. But their core, they have a special core, and it reminds me of of the team from 2012 when they lost to Boston. They have kind of similarities in the way they play.
Yeah, and again, they're a young team, and I mean, to be a young team in the first round to win against the reigning Stanley Cup champions, that's a good thing for these players to walk away from, and they shouldn't be ashamed of losing to Vegas. Vegas is a great hockey team.
Oh God, no, no. Look, Vegas in the finals a few years ago, they lost to another good team in Washington. Look, to beat the defending champions, that's no easy feat, and especially to do it when you're kind of that young and inexperienced. Look, it takes heart, and when a team has heart, as a fan. If you're a fan of the Vancouver Canucks, there's nothing you could do other than, be excited for the future. And that's all I'll say about the Canucks because, look, we'll be talking about them for years to come, I'm sure. But this is a special group of young talents. And we're going to be talking a lot about them over the next few years because they're going to be an exciting team to watch. They score goals. They score a lot of goals. And look, if you're a fan of that team, get ready. Get ready for many years of good hockey.
I agree with you on that.
To end off our podcast, we're going to talk about something that's affected the world for a while. Jacob Blake. We touched on the shooting last week, me and Matthew. That was when Dario wasn't here. There's been a lot that's happened since then. I think a day after, or maybe 2 days after the NBA, the Milwaukee Bucks boycotted the game. They said we're not
boycott
playing.
happened right before our last episode aired.
It was on the Tuesday.
It was on the Wednesday. We recorded
on the
Tuesday.
Right, yes, it was on the Wednesday.
And it was supposed to release on Wednesday, so it happened right before.
Again, a lot's happened. There's a lot to break down with that situation, but I mean, the NBA got people's attention for sure because boycotting playoff games, that's something I don't think we've ever seen before. We saw in the 60s when the Boston Celtics boycotted some games. But again, that was many years ago, but it's for the same purpose. And now in 2020, I think these players have a platform that are kind of allowing their voices to be heard. I mean, for sure, their voices are being heard. There's no arguing that.
Yeah, and I think I understand what the reason was for wanting to boycott, but I think the better thing out of this is the reason why players like LeBron decided to come back was like when they said he talked to Obama and then he talked about using the NBA platform to inspire change instead of boycotting it. I think that's better because if you're using that platform, you could, like, at a higher level, you could use your voice to actually make a difference instead of canceling and then let's be honest, if you cancel, I mean, it'll make your voices heard, people will listen, but like it's not gonna stop these terrible things from happening. And I think the more you use your platform and to actually talk about and to have these discussions, it's in the long run will kind of go farther.
Yeah, I completely agree with Troy on that. I actually think it's obviously important that there's awareness for this whole for all these issues, and it was important that they made a statement and I think we can all agree that they, to extent they definitely did. And I do like that they decided to then continue and to use that platform in order to spread that awareness even more. And I think all the NBA teams kind of agree on that. And I have to say, as a community, it's kind of cool to see the NBA kind of, kind of be tightly knit in a sense, and that there's more of a promotion for that change. And I think it's definitely a positive reaction to it.
Yeah, no, it's a tough situation, and the NBA, boycotting games at the end of the day, it's not going to solve racism. It's not going to solve the systemic racism that's, just embedded in the culture and the history of America. Obviously, we're at a time in 2020 where it's a lot better, and we're more aware, not only equal rights, but not only just for Black people, but we're more aware of different genders, and it's a lot to take in, and there's a lot that we've kind of been shielded from for a long time. But the crazy thing about this Jacob Blake situation, it's he's not like the gold standard for a human being. He had rape charges, sexual assault charges against him, and a few other charges. And I can't speak to, I don't know if they're true or not. Only the people involved do. But we're kind of defending this guy who's we would never defend sexual assault or rape. I mean, I would always say that's just a sick human being. That's not a normal thing to do. But it's come to a point where it's not about the fact of who was Jacob Blake. It's the way it happened, and it happens on a daily basis. We just don't know about it, and that's the truth. I always thought, when I was young, carrying a gun, who needs a gun? Who's gonna hurt you? I mean, look, if you're living in the south side of Chicago, if you're living in, Compton, LA, streets of New York, like there's so many places in New York, or sorry, not New York, in America, where just police officers think they can do whatever they want. And they often get away with it because in their communities and in their counties and their districts, they often protect each other. And look, you just don't know, how long this has been going on. And it's so, I mean, look, we know rape, it was a lot worse, hundreds of years ago, with slavery. That's a different discussion for a different day. We're talking about right now why the NBA is protesting. It's because what's going on is just, it can't happen. But the problem is it doesn't stop by boycotting games. It stops, in the Oval Office. You have to put laws in place that punish the officers. I'd throw those officers in jail the rest of their life. The problem is they get away with it. If cops stopped getting away with it, then you'd be able to change. And there's so much politically and so much, legally that we don't know about it. And, lawyers and the way that the police officers have been protected for years, they're all protected under like the legal system. And that's what has to change in order, for cops to stop killing, innocent people. I think the most powerful image I saw was, from the WNBA. Do I watch the league? No, but there's an image going around where it was just the players lined up with 7 bullet holes through the back, and when you look at that and how a cop was able to get away with shooting a man in front of his entire family 7 times in the back. And I'm sorry, the story that he was going for a knife. How can a cop see through a car? Does he have some X-ray vision that I don't know about? So look, obviously the cops have to be fully responsible, and they have to be held fully accountable. And that's a story with not only Jacob Blake, but with people like Breonna Taylor, and just so many names that it's not even worth for me to go through it, because it's hundreds and hundreds and thousands of names, and that's all I'll say about that. That's how I'll end that off.
Yeah, I mean, you said it all, and like even you mentioned his charges, what he was charged for, but even still, like even if those are true and they're absolutely wrong, that's what we have. Like the system is to arrest, and like he should be arrested for the crimes committed. He shouldn't be shot 7 times in the back. That is not like what the police job is for. The police job is to serve and protect, and not to take a life.
Yeah. Look, just a horrible situation all around, and I said we're going to conclude it here, but it's been such a crazy week. I almost forgot. We do have to talk about Chadwick Boseman, King T'Challa. It's a sad loss. It's especially with what's going on in the world. It felt like the timing couldn't have been any worse. But a man that meant so much to so many people. You guys are really the movie buffs as well as sports fans. So I'll let you start with Chadwick Boseman and kind of what he meant not only for the acting community, but I know you guys can't speak for the Black community, but what you think he meant for kind of that group.
Honestly, I think a lot of it goes down. I mean, he was a terrific actor, no question there. But in terms of like his impact on the African American community, I think you could look no further than the roles he played, especially two in particular. He played Jackie Robinson, the first African American athlete, who was the one who broke the color barrier, and to like bring that performance into such like a historically important role.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then to play Black Panther, the first African American comic character, and like kind of like, I mean, there's been other African American superheroes we've seen film like Blade, but like none of them has gotten as much attention and nearly as much like critical praise as Black Panther did, and like just it makes me think about like how important that him being in that role in that film meant to people. Because I remember like when that movie came out, I think like, a lot of African American celebrities were donating to communities to help younger kids go watch that movie too, so that they could see the representation on screen. And like for Chadwick Boseman to be the actor who was that these kids were looking up to, I think that means a lot because he's playing he's been such a pivotal moment in like African American history, like especially in the film industry.
Yeah, no, I'm to be honest, I'm still kind of in disbelief that he's gone. Um, to be honest, the first film I saw from him was Jackie Robinson 42. I remember when I was sitting in my seat watching that, and there's something about his character, about who he is, just not just the characters he plays, but the person he is, that feels so genuine and felt so inspirational, just to what he could do, the levels he was doing for the African American community, but also just generally as a human. He just had he hit all the right strings, and there's so much to really like love about his work, about what he's done for people, and just even being in the roles that he was as an actor. And he was a phenomenal actor, a phenomenal person. He's just something I think a lot of fans will be very inspired for years to come. And he is a legend. And I don't think any of us will ever forget what he has done.
Yeah. You guys touched on 42, the Jackie Robinson story. I mean, he transcended, just the sport of baseball. He was the one that broke the color barrier. But I mean, I don't want to talk too much about that. I want to talk more about the Black Panther. And I saw a tweet. And it was, he gave Black people hope. For the first time, they weren't, depicted as, helpless, or, they came from he was, the hero. He was a leader of an entire nation. And I mean, the movie was, I rewatched it the next day, and just, it's such a good movie from top to bottom. But just the way he portrayed his role, and the way he brought Black Panther to the screens, it felt like no other movie I've ever seen, even when I saw it in theaters. And when I rewatched it after I saw that tweet, saying that he gave people so much hope. Look, we've seen a bunch of superhero movies. Not even there hasn't even been a female superhero that kind of had the impact that Black Panther did. And it's really, I think that's my biggest takeaway is, how impactful Black Panther was to an entire, I don't want to, put them in, one group, but, I'll just for the African American community, he meant like to be able to give kids belief that you can do anything. You can, no one's going to stop you. I think that was the message that really hasn't happened before. And I think I'll just say this from the movie industry, all the feel good stories that come from Black people in cinema or from African Americans. It's always they start from nothing and then they kind of rise up through all the challenges. That wasn't the start of Jack with the Black Panther. Sorry, it was you work hard, you can do anything, and nothing's stopping you. And that's the only takeaway I took from that movie, other than the fact that it was a great movie.
Honestly, to add to that, I'll say it's like you talk about how often in African Americans in films like African American characters are portrayed as coming from nothing, but in Black Panther he was a king, and the main like point of the movie was how he can. By the end, the lesson he learns is how he can give back to these other African Americans who have nothing, to reach out to these kids in these like poor communities. Because the whole part of the movie is how they've been away from that, shying away from that for many years, and now is the opportunity for them to actually give back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a tough loss for the world for sure. Chadwick Boseman will for sure be missed by so many people. A brilliant actor, and to fight colon cancer while shooting those movies.
To keep it private as well.
Yeah. A true king. And I think that's how we'll leave it off today. I think we covered just about everything. So we will be back next week. Tune in Wednesday night. The podcast drops every Wednesday at 8 o'clock. So tune in for that. And if you guys like what we're doing, leave a comment. Just do whatever. If you guys are enjoying, keep listening, and we'll see you guys next week.
Interesting.
Bye-bye.